When I was a kid, I had braces, and I knew that every 4 or 5 weeks or so, I'd have to go back to see the orthodontist. And this was before the age of Invisalign, of course, and I had a mountain of wire in my mouth. And of course, they'd get in there with their pliers and tweak it around, and it would feel like I'd had a visit personally from the Marquis de Sade. And I absolutely hated going to the orthodontist. That will become relevant in just a second, I assure you. Here's what we're talking about today. There are some things that you just dread. You never want to see anything from the IRS show up in the email or in the mail. You never want to see those flashing red and blue lights behind you when you're driving. And you never want to be in a situation where you're going to be asked to do something that might hurt your friends and colleagues. But that is pretty much what this witness, Jesus Rojas, is going to be asked to do. And if you look at his affect as he's called to the stand by the prosecution, he looks like he would rather be anywhere else in the world than sitting in that courtroom. It's almost like if you walked up to him and said, Jesus, would you rather be here in the courtroom or would you rather be naked, covered with honey, and strapped over a fire ant bed? And I imagine the fire ant bed would win at least a couple of times out of 10 because you can tell he clearly does not want to be here. This is a guy who worked with all three of these officers. He knows these guys. He was involved in this call. Now, he's not on trial because he never fired his gun. And that is more or less an accident by virtue of where he was when it all went down. As a result, he is answering the questions, and I think he's answering them truthfully, but he isn't giving them any more than he absolutely has to.
Let me show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 6. Do you recognize this?
Yes.
How are you able to recognize it?
Initial, my badge number and the date.
Okay. Have you had a chance to look at the contents of State's Exhibit 6 and confirm what was on it?
Yes.
And what does it contain?
So
Sorry, David. I think our evidence is in defense 4 and 5. The defense 4 and 5 is already in, so we don't have two of them. They only need one body cam from Officer Rojas. If they don't mind using ours, I mean, it's the same thing.
We'll go ahead and use ours. You can instruct the jury at the end and remind them they don't have to look at it twice.
They decide that they want to introduce his body camera. One of the things that jurors really dislike is lawyers who are disorganized. And this particular crew of prosecutors is disorganized. For whatever reason, they cannot seem to get his body camera to play. People from the defense said, hey, do you want to use ours? We've got ours. Sorry, there's no sense having two of them admitted. And the guy said, no, you can instruct the jury later on, which came off as arrogant and useless. And why would you want to make the jury look at two different things? And I assure you, they would look at two different things just to make sure somebody wasn't trying to pull the wool over their eyes. I would if I was on that jury. The defense has not had any problem whatsoever playing their audio and video on the screen. However, the prosecution seems to be, well, let's just say a bit inept. I'm going to speed this up to like 3 or 4 times the regular rate of speed so you don't have to sit through the whole thing. But watch how long the jury had to go as they fiddle with the equipment to try to get this thing to play.
Is that true, an accurate copy of your entire body cam?
yes.
Now, in fact, is there more than one body camera on here?
It's multiple. I turned it off once, so there should be 2 different recordings.
We have no objections.
Okay.
Right, and you moving to admit it?
I am moving to admit it.
It's admitted?
Now, watch how long it takes them to get this thing to the point where it's supposed to play. And even then, they decide, oh, the heck with it. I'll just ask him questions.
I continue to ask questions while they work through this, if you like.
You're welcome to do that, yes.
Now, when I worked at my law firm, I was always the chief nerd. I was the guy who got to the courthouse an hour before everybody else, checked the system out, ran through the tapes, made sure they worked, everything was ready to go, and I had them set up with a table of exhibits and all the things that we needed, including paper copies of the exhibits so they could be shown to the other side and to the judge so we could get them admitted, and then we could run it through the computer system. That was my job when I went to trial with other people in our firm. I was the chief nerd, a role I kind of relished, actually. I enjoyed that. And unfortunately, it looks like the prosecutors don't have their very own chief nerd, or if they do, he's more of a geek than a nerd because he can't fix this thing.
Right, you had mentioned when you first arrived at the scene, you made contact with Captain Hudson, the witness that preceded you. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And at that moment in time when you met with Captain Hudson at the San Antonio Fire Department, what did you know about what happened at that location?
He explained to me that
First of all, before you got anything from him, what did you know?
just whatever was on the key card, that there's a female that cut the actual wires to the burglar alarm, set off the burglar alarm.
And describe from the jury what a key card is.
That was the key card, so it's our laptop. When they assign a call, it gives you the details of the actual call and some of the comments that the call takers are putting on the key card on the laptop about the call.
And is that information distributed to all the officers in the district or just the people that were dispatched to the call?
It'll be to the people who are dispatched to the call, but every officer could see it. They all have access to see it on their own computer.
Okay, so you have that information, you have a kind of a description of the purported suspect and what they did.
Yes.
And when you talk to Captain, I guess then Lieutenant Hudson, did he seem to have some additional information to give you?
He said he had a video recording of her confessing to what she did.
And anything else?
Just that she was he had told her that the FBI was listening to her. That's why she cut the wires.
And did he actually show you where this fire sprinkler cabinet was?
Yes.
And kind of indicate with you where the wires were cut?
Yes.
Did he present you with any witnesses that saw her cut it?
No, I believe not. He did.
He didn't.
No, he didn't.
But he did say he had recorded her making some admissions to having done it.
Yes.
Right. And from the things that he had told you about some of the things that she said, did some of the things that she said seem to be factually accurate?
Somebody needs to wake up the defense. He's over here leading this witness like there's no tomorrow, basically telling him what he's testifying to. He should be they should be objecting to these leading questions. But when he doesn't ask a leading question, like that last one there, he asks a stupid question. Are are some of the things she said factually accurate? Well, which some of the things are you talking about? Where she says she cut the wires? Pretty sure that's accurate. But being, listened to by the FBI, we don't have any evidence one way or the other, do we? I mean, maybe the FBI was listening to her. But irrespective of that, it's just a dumb question. What he should have asked is, can you describe her affect, how she was behaving, that sort of thing? It's a better question. And of course, he realizes that after the witness gives him this answer.
Can you explain yourself?
Yeah, it wasn't a very good question. With regard to some things that she was saying to Captain Hudson, it seemed like they were fantastical thinking.
What she was saying that the FBI was tapping on, hearing her, so she was trying to cut the wires to stop that.
Okay, did you accept that as being true?
No.
But did it pull you into something else?
Yes, that she was probably suffering from some kind of mental episode.
As part of that training you went through, and the experiences you had over 8 or 9 years in a patrol car responding to 911 calls and emergencies, had you had the kinds of training and preparation to deal with somebody who's having mental illness challenges?
Yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit about the kind of the training that you received.
We received training in the academy. After the academy, we still had to receive more training. They actually sent us to a class to where so we received training. Yeah, after academy and during the academy.
This is why I say that he very clearly does not want to help the prosecution. He could easily have talked about some of the strategies that they were given, some of the things they were taught, how to recognize, schizophrenia, how to deal with people who aren't talking like they're in a state of reality. Any of those things, that would have been about the training. Instead, he just basically said he took 2 classes. And I think what he's trying to do here is avoid getting into the specifics, either A, because he doesn't remember them, and most likely he doesn't, or B, because he's trying not to hurt his buddies who are on trial. And either one of those is understandable. And it doesn't mean he's lying. He's answering the question. And if the district attorney accepts the answer and doesn't press him and try and nail him down on that, then that's the answer that's going in the record, and it's not a false answer. It's definitely a true answer. It's just a non-responsive one. So he should have objected to non-responsive and asked it again. A lot of times people don't adhere to the basic formalities of trial practice, either because they don't get enough practice at trial or because they've never handled an appellate brief. Either way, they don't adhere to the requirements that you actually preserve error when it happens.
I mean, is that a point of emphasis in your training?
Yes.
Because does it happen with regularity that you will encounter in a police citizen contact someone that is exhibiting signs of mental illness or crisis?
Yes.
Does the San Antonio Police Department actually have a specialized unit for dealing with such situations as that?
Yes, sir.
What's that unit called?
The mental health unit.
Now, the mental health unit was the brainchild of the chief of police, a guy by the name of McManus. And I strongly suspect that he is loathed by the rank and file police officers because he couldn't wait to throw these folks under the bus after this shooting happened. And the first thing he said is they should have called the mental health unit. But as we'll soon see, that might have been more difficult than it sounds. In other words, sounds like a great way to handle this situation, but it probably really wasn't.
The mental health unit. Tell the jury a little bit about the mental health unit and how officers are trained to involve them during certain incidents?
So the unit, they have certain officers that's how they deal with this, the mental health consumers. So whenever they have some that are, I guess, regulars, they'll send some of them.
Are people from that unit available to officers like yourself 24/7?
Yes.
They are. And in
Well,
2023,
not, and back then they weren't as big as they are now. It was mainly during the daytime hours. Yeah.
so in 2023, they were limited to availability during the daytime hours?
Yeah.
Now, the prosecutor should understand that that answer hurts his case, meaning that they would have had to have rousted somebody out of bed at 3 o'clock in the morning or whenever this was, run them out there, probably would have taken 45, 50, 60 minutes to get out there. They had an invalid in there, a gal with a hammer, and they didn't know what the heck he was gonna do, or she was gonna do rather. And as a result, I think that the idea of calling the mental health unit, while it sounds like a fine idea, if they're not available and ready to roll at the drop of a hat, then you really don't have a mental health unit. You have some day ladies who are essentially doing that job. And that's a big difference between having somebody who is on call and available to you 24/7. And the funny thing is, not apparently he didn't recognize how bad that answer was for his case because he repeated it. So again, this is one of those situations, and I don't mean to completely criticize the prosecution here, but they have not been doing a stellar job. And the witnesses, while they have been giving the appearance of being cooperative, I think for the most part, the police witnesses are not particularly fond of this case, and nobody really wants to see these guys thrown under the bus for this shooting. Because they did have an invalid in there, and because they weren't sure how deranged she was, I'm sure they felt like they needed to act very quickly. And I'm sure we'll hear more about that in their phase of the case. But the bottom line is that they just they essentially jumped to the conclusion that this was an invalid response. But the federal court, the district magistrate, said no, it's not an unreasonable use of force, and he threw out the case. Now, that can't be admitted here because the standards are different. But there's a good chance the jury knows about that. But again, it can't come into evidence, and so it shouldn't figure into the verdict. But it does figure into the way that I'm thinking about this. If you can't convince a federal magistrate that this is an incorrect shooting, that there was a violation of the law here, then I think it raises the bar a little bit for you to convict these officers under that theory. This is the kind of shooting that I would refer to as awful but lawful. They can certainly prosecute, and they are doing that, but I don't think anybody, maybe the prosecutor might be upset, maybe the chief of police might be upset, but I think the San Antonio Police Department, the people who keep these people safe in their beds at night, and all of these jurors are from San Antonio, and they all get to weigh in on whether or not they want to be safe at night. That's a pretty powerful incentive for them to go very gently on these officers. This is something actually that we see frequently in medical negligence cases. Everybody loves their doctor. They don't want to think that their doctor is a complete imbecile. And so they are much less likely to find that another doctor is an idiot and has done something that's just beyond the pale, simply because they enjoy a presumption of acting correctly. And I think for the most part, most police officers enjoy that presumption from most people. Now, maybe not all, but certainly most. And as a result, that's what impacts this particular case, because although it was a terrible outcome, I really do think it was probably not an unlawful shooting. But again, that's for the jury to decide. I'm just offering you my opinion, and I'd love to hear yours. Tell me what you think. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you being here today. If you have the opportunity today, try to do one kind thing to help somebody else. Any kind thing will do. Buy somebody a Coke, get them a cup of coffee, anything that makes their day better. That would be a way to help make the world a better place. Because after all, isn't that what we're all after? Now, YouTube has a few things that they think you might be interested in, and they're going to be showing you that right up there.